Good morning to you. As I said, Paul Kelso, our business correspondent, is here with us for the latest on inflation. Paul, morning to you. Data's out.
Yeah, September's inflation figures, which matter for all sorts of reasons, forecast to rise from 3.8% in August to 4%. That forecast is on the high side. It's actually stayed flat at 3.8%. Now, that's still nearly double the Bank of England's target of 2%. It is high inflation. It's high relative to UK's European peers. It's higher than anyone would want. But there's a sliver of good news here because this was expected to be a bump. The forecasts were widely 4%, possibly a little higher. Most people, including the Bank of England, think this will be the peak of inflation for various statistical reasons. So if nearly double the Bank of England rate can be a sliver of good news, it is there. The underlying figures are also encouraging. Core inflation fell slightly. That's if you take out alcohol, tobacco, fuel, commodities that fluctuate. That's 3.5% down from 3.6 in August. And services inflation, that's the bulk of the British economy, also fell slightly, 4.7% from 5%.
Really interesting then, isn't it, Paul? Because we've got the budget coming soon. The Chancellor, everyone in the Treasury will be looking at this really closely. As you say, the forecast was 4%. Bad headlines are already being written about that, but it's not got to that level.
It hasn't. And interesting, the Chancellor tried to get a retaliation in first last night. She spoke about it in a government event yesterday. She let it be known via a Treasury source that she'll be calling Cabinet Ministers together tomorrow to prioritise cutting the cost of living and bringing down inflation, including a very clear steer that she'd look at bringing down energy prices, discussion of perhaps knocking VAT off energy prices 5%, which would save around 80 quid a year to an average family. So clearly the Chancellor braced for the worst with these numbers. They're still not good. 3.8% isn't great. If it is the peak and the peak in this inflationary cycle, then that will be welcome. These numbers also matter because they will set the rate of benefit increases. So a year ago, September's number was 1.7%. It was below the target, 3 points. That's over double. So that will increase the bill that Rachel Reeves and the taxpayer has to front for benefits going in to next year. So this is an important number for all sorts of reasons.
Which is why the I were reporting this morning the benefits will go up by 4% because that was the expectation.
Indeed.
Now, tell us why economists think that this is the peak. I'm just going to bring a bit of breaking news as well, that sterling has dropped. Is that as a result of these numbers, do we think? Down against the dollar, that is the latest line on that.
Yeah, it may be linked, but the reasoning why most people think this will be the peak is basically down to energy prices. Right. Energy prices are such an important factor in the cost of everything. They impact everything, from food to pretty much everything in this country moves on the road. So energy and everything requires energy to be produced. As we know, we talk a lot about the price cap for energy that's set. That changes in October. So essentially, this is about where energy prices went. The increase in energy prices this year was less than the increase in energy prices last year. So once the energy prices drop out of the figures next month, we expect inflation to fall. I'm not sure I've explained that particularly clearly, but it's statistics. But it's essentially every month you move on and a number drops out. And as we saw, with that reason, the inflation fell below 2% a year ago was because it was a really steep energy price increase the year before that. So it's the way that the statistics work. Of course, there are other factors, but energy is such an important.
You're going to be across this all day for us, but final thought, will this have any impact on the Bank of England and interest rates, do we think?
It'll certainly impact on their thinking. Their forecasts have had this as the peak. I'd have to check exactly where they thought it would be. Will it dramatically, the fact inflation hasn't gone up, will it dramatically impact? I'd suspect not. The expectation is the Bank of England's Monetary Policy Committee meet early next month to make their next decision on interest rates. The expectation is they won't cut rates, largely because inflation is so high. It's quite hard if your job is to bring down inflation to cut rates, which would, so the theory goes, allow more money into the economy and perhaps push prices up. They will, though, be looking at employment numbers. They'll be looking at their general stasis in the economy, because part of their remit, too, is not to slow things down too much. But we'll have to see what the markets will have been taking a view while we've been talking, hopefully not based on what I've been saying, but they will take a view. My hunch is their expectations of a cut in November won't have shifted, and people may have to wait till next year for a cut, much as the Chancellor would love it to come sooner.
I think their expectation was it's going to be 4%, as you say, coming in slightly under, but whether that changes their sort of big decision-making.
It's level, it's certainly not a decline. But this may be the peak, although people will be interested to see what the food inflation numbers are underlying here, which I haven't had a chance to look at yet. But that's the one that people have really been feeling. It's the inflationary cost none of us can really avoid, and no one can have failed to notice.
You've got reporting from a beef farm, haven't you, which exactly speaks to that, and we'll get you back on later to explain the food inflation process as well when you get them. Paul, for now, thank you so much.